Now, there clearly have been times when you have felt disrespected on Capitol Hill. How much of that do you think relates to race?
It's hard to say. Hard to look into people's minds, their hearts.
But were there times when you thought that was a piece of it?
Yeah, there have been times when I've thought that's at least a piece of it. I think that the primary motivator has probably been political in nature. I've not been a person who's been reluctant to express my own views about certain things, and that's kind of who I am. It's the way I was raised. It's how I'm wound, and I think that probably generated, the greatest part of the criticism, the unfair treatment that I think I got.
Now, the piece of it that was racial, how did that make you feel?
It's not something that I focused on an awful lot because, the reality is I have a job to do. I had a job to do. And the criticism is going to come, whatever its source. You can't let it deflect you from, keeping your eyes on the prize. I had to take a Justice Department that was in shambles, when I got here. Political hiring, political firing, exclusion of career people from decision-making for political reasons. And so I had to rebuild the department, put in place people who I thought would share my view of what this department ought to be doing.
That's all the Bush administration that you're talking about there.
Yeah, these are all documented in Inspector General reports. Mm-hmm. It was a low point for the Justice Department, an institution that I love. I've been here since 1976, in some form or fashion. And so we had to rebuild the department, and then on the basis of that rebuilding, advance the things that I thought really important: criminal justice reform, protecting voting rights, dealing with LGBT issues, protecting the national security while at the same time adhering to our values.
How much of the criticism of President Obama is infected with race?
Hard to tell. I certainly don't think that that's the primary thing that happens in Washington. And then there are fringe people around the country.
Well, more than fringe.
Well, fringe people around the country who will say, racially based things. But I think.
But the non-fringe, the other people who criticize this president or have beef with this president, like, how often do you think that race is part of that?
It's hard to tell. It's really hard to tell. People, when they are going after you, try to come up with what they think is going to be the most effective technique. And so they use a whole variety of other things. You weren't born in this country. You are the other. You come up with ways in which you try to be effective in your attacks. And certain people have been, less sensitive than they should have been to understand that certain things, given our history, there's certain places that you shouldn't go.